Well, joining me now, Abby, is Republican Congressman Bob Good of Virginia. He is one of the 8 Republicans who voted to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. Thank you for being here. And Congressman, what a day.
Indeed it was, and quite frankly, it's a win for the American people because this was a blow against the status quo, a blow against the establishment swamp, the D.C. swamp cartel. There's a reason why Congress has a 20% approval rating, and 80% of Americans say we're on the wrong track. Both parties have contributed to that, and while it's the Democrat parties that are in place that are destroying the country, that are crushing regular Americans with high interest rates and inflation and grocery prices and gas prices, utility and an open border, but Republicans have also contributed in terms of not making real change, not fighting when we have the House majority. And so this was a blow against that status quo and a fight for change, which most Americans want in Congress.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the status quo as the perspective that you bring here, but for many of the American people, they're looking at Congress more broadly as dysfunctional. You have now voted to oust Speaker McCarthy. There is no succession plan in place. So for all the things you've just named, this has really been a paralyzing moment. Nothing can get done in the same way you're talking about. Why has there been no succession plan, and was that not contemplated?
Well, I would reject that there was no succession plan, because what you typically have when you're choosing a speaker, you've got the presumptive speaker, the party candidate that everyone has to support. Everyone's afraid to raise their hand and say they're a candidate because of retaliation or consequence because they didn't support the presumptive one. Most members of Congress just vote for whomever the party says to. Tell me when there was an upset vote for speaker. When has that happened in the history or in modern times? But now we'll have a contest. We'll have a competition where all members are equal in terms of their opportunity to throw their hat in the ring. We'll have a candidate forum on Tuesday night. Between now and then, we will vet candidates, meet with candidates, talk with them. They'll try to build coalitions of support. And we have a talented group of individuals, and someone will rise and become that speaker. We'll get someone that has to get it 218 because we have to, quite frankly. But sometimes people will say, oh, well, Congress isn't getting things done. Well, tell me what we're getting done for the American people. As if you were going into surgery and said, I don't care who does the surgery. I don't care what they do. Just get something done. Just do something. Most of what we're doing or have been doing historically has been hurting the American people. The American people are suffering. They don't feel like Washington is working for them. We got $33 trillion in national debt. We got an open border. We got a depleted military. We got an American weakened on the national stage. We got a president that has such low approval ratings. And Congress, as I noted, has low approval ratings. So we want to try to get it right. We want to get it right with the best speaker that we can put forth, and that will help lead the change the American people voted for when they gave us the House majority back last November.
And yet, when I look at a calendar, and you mentioned that this will not take place until at least next week, an actual vote, you're going to be without a leader for a week. McCarthy's not running again. It takes 218 votes, as you've said. Who can actually get to these votes to try to drive home the point that you're making? I note that Gates keeps pointing to Congressman Steve Scalise, but he doesn't seem to want this job. And of course, it did take 15 rounds, despite what you say was a kind of a foregone conclusion. It took 15 rounds for McCarthy to even get it. So who do you support?
It only took 15 rounds because we broke history and did something that hadn't happened in 160 years when members of Congress back in January voted against their presumptive leader, their presumptive speaker. That hadn't happened in 60 years. And that put changes in place for how Congress would operate. We returned to regular order where members in the minority party and the majority party have had input, amendments, working through committee, minimum amount of time to read bills, ability to make amendments from the floor, as I noted. So that has made Congress stronger. And frankly, we restored the ability to remove the speaker if he wasn't living up to the obligations or the commitments that he made to become speaker. So that is how a constitutional republic is supposed to work. That's how a legislative body is supposed to work, and we have restored that in Congress. And now there'll be a number of
I don't want to cut you off. I know there'll be a number of candidates, as you've mentioned, but right now, whoever the candidate will be, I mean, if you're talking about, just say, the attractiveness of a particular job, you've got this now motion to vacate option that is there. Certainly Pelosi did not have it, but it's been in play for quite some time. Will you demand that whoever it is who steps up to the plate, hoping to become the next speaker, do you demand that they also operate on the same motion to vacate option?
Well, absolutely. It was in place for 200 years until Nancy Pelosi changed it. It was good for Thomas Jefferson. It should be good for our Speaker today. A strong, secure, confident leader recognizes that he or she serves at the pleasure of those who elect them. And the good thing is they'll be all starting from an equal footing, trying to earn the support of 218. We will all have a vested interest in their success, not just because we want the best for the country, which is what I pledged to Speaker McCarthy, as I said on the House floor after he was elected back in January, but because we all have voted in this person, and we're committed as a conference to coming together and find that best person who can get to 218 votes.
Just this past Saturday, a can was kicked down the road in terms of a government shutdown.
Right.
45 days away is now the next opportunity. You cut into that a week of time now when somebody is no longer going to be the Speaker of the House. Are you not concerned that there won't be enough time to steer the government in the right direction and try to follow through with what your objectives are?
I appreciate you making that point about last Saturday. Yes, last Saturday was a failure. Congress fell back under Speaker McCarthy to doing what we've been doing for years, which is failing to pass our 12 appropriations bills. That's how you get to $33 trillion in debt, $1 trillion a year in interest on the debt, trajectory to get to $50 trillion of debt in the next 10 years, unsustainable, bankrupting our kids and our grandkids, policies that are destroying the country. And so our commitment was to change that. When the Speaker did not joining us in changing that, and when he failed and reverted back to the status quo of the past, we removed him as Speaker, and that's a win for the American people.
Well, some would look at this as not a win in the sense of bipartisanship was what was in part achieved. I understand the points that you're raising wholeheartedly, but if a failure is keeping the government open, I wonder how some would define success. But let me ask you this about what Congressman Matt Gaetz had to say, because he has been, as you have probably heard by now, fundraising off of what took place today and the motion to vacate. Do you think that's appropriate?
Well, all members fundraise all the time. When you're in a 2-year election cycle and it takes millions of dollars to get to Congress, it takes millions of dollars to stay in Congress, and don't think that the swamp won't strike back, that the empire won't strike back, and those who are willing to stand up and be counted and to fight for the American people instead of fighting for the donor class and the lobbyists and K Street and Wall Street that are fighting for the American people, don't you think they're going to have a target on their back? So why wouldn't they let the American people know that they stand with them, and if the American people want to support them, they can choose to do so? Nothing wrong with that.
Do you feel you have a target on your back, obviously figuratively speaking here, given your vote against McCarthy? Because as you can imagine, there's a select few number of congressmen and women compared to, of course, those who voted to keep him in power on the Republican side. Do you feel that you are now vulnerable based on your choice?
Well, I just will tell you this, that back in January and again today, you had members of Congress make history by being willing to risk their own personal careers, their own personal ambitions in terms of what was safe and secure, just to the status quo, and to do what they believe was right, irrespective of the cost. We need more courage in Washington, and we need more people willing to do that.
Are you going to put your name into the ring?
Right now, I'm only 217 votes away from getting to 218, so if your endorsement maybe will help me get there if you want to go ahead and give that to me tonight.
We're not doing math for you this evening. Congressman Bob Good, thank you so much.
Great to be with you. Thank you.